Hey, friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast. Sorry, I should say welcome back to Steve and Larson's Pro Wrestling Podcast. Larson, the friendos have spoke. And in our comments, they say they love the new Cena-inspired graphics. So until the real last undisputed WWE champion, from Bruno Sammartino to Stone Cold Steve Austin to Roman Reigns to John Cena for the 17th time, until he loses that title, these graphics are staying because you get nothing.
You lose.
You lose, friendos. No, they're great. They're great.
Actually, I feel like they win because they like them and they're going to keep getting them, so they win.
Oh, God, you just ruined it, Larson. You ruined it.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
You
no,
ruined
lose.
There you go. Yeah, we're bad guys now.
Ooh.
Anyway, speaking of bad guys, The Rock is coming off a bit heelish these days, Larson, because The Rock is getting into Instagram comments, apparently, lashing out at critics over WrestleMania and the fact that he wasn't there. So,
yeah.
Obviously, he faced a good amount of criticism after explaining on the Pat McAfee show why he wasn't at WrestleMania 41, including from Busted Open Radio's Dave LaGreca.
Did you watch what Dave had to say?
I did. I was worried that he was going to have a heart attack.
He was very, what's a good word for that? Passionate? Intense?
Passionate. Yeah. What happened? What was somebody at your door?
Emergency vehicle driving down the street here.
Man, one of these days, I'm just waiting. Somebody's going to bust through that door and they're going to kidnap you, Larson. And I'll have to get on my phone and call the cops. Rush down there.
I have a hard time believing that's going to happen, but okay.
So, yeah, Dave LaGreca was calling out The Rock for basically being what did he call it, a Tuesday morning quarterback?
That's what he said, for saying, for criticizing how the main event was handled without actually being involved in it when he seemingly had every opportunity to be involved in it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, like you and I made a joke about this, but like on Pat McAfee show, I'm pretty sure his lower said director of the board. Like, we just thought he was on the board of directors, but this said he was director of the. I don't know.
They're just keeping kayfabe there a little bit on the.
I guess so,
show.
And that sort of speaks to Rock's point here, because after Dave LaGreca posted up this segment from the Busted Open show, rant about how Rock, if he didn't like it, he could have done something about it. He could have been involved in the creative. He went off, and The Rock got into the Instagram comments there and posted a response. And he said, "Hi, Dave. The business is a complete work. Always has been, always will be. Every aspect of it. Every match, every interview. Please join me, Cody, Cena, Brian, and the rest of us for our creative discussions so you can expand your perspective. Until then, stop ranting. It's not healthy, my friend. Enjoy the show. P.S. Tell Bubba I have Grand Marnier. Oh, Marnier and Hush Puppies for all of us."
Hold on.
Yeah.
So is The Rock trying to tell Dave here that everything is a work, including his interview on the Pat McAfee show, or does he have the understanding that Dave LaGreca does not understand that pro wrestling is scripted entertainment?
I would be shocked if it was the second one, but that's how I read what you said first too. That's how I read this, that this is part of a story. I feel look, sometimes listen, sometimes you and I are like too much on the same brainwave when it comes to this kind of, is there, so in the comment, like, we're not doing this live. Honestly, dude, like, doing things live adds a little bit more stress, and I feel like I got to be on a little bit more. And this week is just not the week for that. Like, it's post WrestleMania. The come down is real.
We've been doing a lot of talking this week, so yes.
We'll be live tomorrow evening for SmackDown. Yes. But this one, I was like, hey, let's just make it you and I. So, anyways, getting back to it. So it's possible that there is another interpretation here for that, which, if you guys think that there's another interpretation, put it down in the comments below. What do you make of him saying, "Please join me, Cody, Cena, Brian, and the rest of us for our creative discussion"? Is that like a snarky thing? Like,
yeah, that sounds like sarcasm.
If you're not in the writer's room, you don't have room to speak on this?
Yeah, I mean, something to that effect, I guess. Between that and stop ranting, enjoy the show. It's the idea that, hey, we put this out there for you. Your job as a fan is to ingest it without thinking about it critically, evidently.
Man,
much less critique it publicly. Take what we give you and be happy. That's kind of the vibe from a lot of people, higher ups within WWE. Take what we give you and be happy about it.
That this has been an ages old thing, and the wrestlers who do feel that way, and there are plenty who don't. There are plenty who appreciate the criticism and engage in the criticism and appreciate a good back and forth. I've seen that plenty on social media.
Mm-hmm.
But, Triple H has often said, and it's funny because sometimes he tries to walk it back, and it's just, come on, it's kind of obvious that, look, I get it. And as somebody who, like, for example, ages ago, back when we were much younger, you made a really wonderful short film that you then screened at festivals.
That was difficult.
I publish comic books, and reading reviews is difficult.
Yeah.
It's not and that's on the smallest scale. We were on the smallest scale.
The smallest of scales, yes.
It is not easy to create and put something out there, and especially when it's in front of so many people and a really, really critical, harsh, and sometimes often disingenuous fan base. It's not easy, but that's why they pay you the big bucks.
Yep.
To sit there.
Sorry, go ahead. Let me interrupt.
Well, to take the criticism like a big boy and accept that people are going to engage with your product in a way that sometimes will disagree with how you've chosen to present your product, your art, which pro wrestling is 1,000% an art form.
Yep.
What were you going to go ahead?
Oh, no, I was going to pretty much say what you just said.
Yeah. And so, but this is different. This is The Rock in that role of critic. And now he's trying to, when somebody says, you're being a critic, but your lower says director of the board. We know you have stroke. So just because your idea is shot down, if you want to step back and say, okay, well, then you guys go ahead because this doesn't align with my vision. You can't show up the next day and say this was crap.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody's dumping on this. let me take the opportunity to dump on it too.
Yep. Well,
then
I'll stop interrupting.
Maybe, I'm sorry, I keep on breaking. I'll give you the floor in a second. And then claim that this McAfee interview, or at least insinuate, we're not dummies. Like, that's a logical way to read this. It's a work. Are they going to do some cheesy power play? Is Rock cooking up some power play angles? I don't know. I'll stop. Go ahead.
Yeah, The Rock's going to cook up some power play story that'll be quickly shot down by Triple H. No, I was going to say the irony of The Rock going on Pat McAfee show and criticizing the end of the main event and then getting on somebody for criticizing The Rock's lack of involvement in the main event. Like, do you not see like the double standard here, Dwayne?
You're no better than us, bro. You are no better. You are simply now a fan talking shit. Not even trying. Look, you and I, it's so funny because somebody I think it was the Going in Rock comment, said evidently you guys put way more thought into the story than they did. Yeah. Which I thought was pretty funny. But when you're sitting there and you're not aware of the behind the scenes politics, games, and shenanigans that are being played backstage, you just have to take what you're given and accept it as the lore and criticize it based on that.
Exactly. If The Rock's position as it relates to his involvement in WWE's creative is I get what I want or I'm not involved, if that's your stance, then like why criticize after the fact?
Yeah.
Because you could have been involved.
Yeah.
If, he wasn't so dug in on his position. If he was more open maybe to collaboration as opposed to Rock gets what he wants or he walks, then you would have a say in this. You would be involved. And maybe this would be more to your liking than Rock, as opposed to what we got here. But yeah, just to go and then, kind of in some respects passive aggressively be really critical of what happened, and then to get on Dave LaGreca for being critical about what happened. It's a double standard.
If there was some indication that The Rock was involved in that, I would understand, and he wasn't. I would understand the desire to defend your reputation, your name.
Yeah.
But like, clearly nobody thought he was involved, because if he was involved, he would have been there.
Yep.
And everybody figured, oh, Rock wasn't there. A, that's weird. B, there must have been some sort. I think everybody assumed they just weren't on the same page creatively, so he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so it's not even a matter of like defending your record on that. So what was the idea? The idea was like, was it Bad Blood where the ticket sales were soft and so they brought him in, or was that Chamber? I think it was Bad Blood. And so they brought him in. And the entire, like, between that and the Chamber heel turn, Rock was like, see, it's all in the plan. It's all in the plan.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that he had wanted Cody. I get the feeling, because Dave Meltzer's been actually kind of accurate on a couple things when it comes to this.
Yeah, we got more from Dave here coming up. I guess we can get to that because it relates to the Cody's heel turn.
Okay.
So also on the Pat McAfee show, The Rock did in fact confirm that he initially did want Cody to turn heel in the build-up to WrestleMania 41, and added that he still thinks a Cody heel turn is a good idea. That's what he said. So if done right and finessed right and if nuanced right, down the road, that guy, Cody, not only has an incredible babyface run again as champion, but also an unheard of run as a heel down the road. So Dave offered up some info on the likelihood of such a move in the near future on Wrestling Observer Radio. These transcripts come to from Cultaholic. He said, quote, I was told that it is not the plan. It could happen. He, The Rock, could probably even force it, but nobody is under the impression that that's where they're going. The Rock really wants Cody to turn heel.
I mean, Cody was pretty great back when he was a heel on the Indies and
Ring of Honor, and yeah.
The thing is, right now that guy is so incredibly over. Now, WrestleMania, the build to WrestleMania, we might have seen the first hints that the crowd is willing to deviate from that. I do still think that until I see more, I'm willing, or I'm leaning towards that being, this crowd is really loving the idea of heel Cena, and so they're going to cheer that and boo anything that isn't that. There was an element of that as well with Bianca getting booed because her character was trying to keep Rhea Ripley, the most popular person there is, from WrestleMania, and so they were booing Bianca Belair. I'm sure there was other reasons as well, especially when they were in Europe. But if they get to a point where, from a business standpoint, and they read the room in terms of the crowd, hey, we can do this. We should do this. It makes sense to do this. I have no doubt that this regime will have no problems pulling the trigger on a Cody heel turn, unlike Vince McMahon, who would have just like rolled with him through boos, et cetera, who would have gone the John Cena route.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure there is going to be a killer heel turn down the line when it makes sense for them to do it. But at this point, until they have some very convincing metrics, that's not going to happen from a business standpoint. The guy is, I think, everything they say he is in the promos.
Yeah, now would not have been the time to turn him heel. No.
Yeah, no. This would have been. No. I mean, this. I don't. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't.
I mean, it'd be one of those situations where they did it strictly for the shock factor, and that's not a good enough reason to do it.
No, it's not. It's not. No, you need a solid story for that.
Yep.
You really do.
And it needs to build and develop over time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, Travis Scott was involved in the finish of WrestleMania, the main event match of night 2. We could be getting more Travis Scott involvement, according to Corey Hayes of Bodyslam.net and PWN. He tweeted the following, quote, I've been informed that there is a pitch for John Cena and Travis Scott to work a tag team match together at some point this year. Nothing concrete as of right now.
they have gone about this Travis Scott celebrity integration possibly the worst possible way. You can take a look at other celebrity involvements in various wrestling storylines and understand there's a blueprint, there is a template, there is a way you can do it so that it will feel seamless within the story. Bad Bunny, for example, is a great example of that, where at this point, even if people didn't know who he was beforehand, I don't think anyway. I mean, there's always going to be some people out there, but the general WWE audience has come to understand this guy, A, loves the product, can put on some killer matches due to some obviously damn hard work to understand how to put on pro wrestling matches. I'm not a fan of the guy. You're not a fan of the guy. But the way they did work in Logan Paul into WWE obviously has been a success. You know, whether people want him to stick around or if he's overstayed his welcome, you know, whatever. But in terms of them accepting him as like, oh, this makes sense. If there was an article that was like, oh, John Cena and Logan Paul are going to team up now, that would make sense to a degree from a storyline perspective, right?
Yeah.
The way they have attempted to bring Travis Scott in is bizarrely inept. I went back and I was looking at some Rodman stuff because I was thinking of like doing a little spiel on Wrestle Juice about this, but we can talk about it here. So I went back and I watched some Rodman stuff, and there's a couple differences when it comes to the zeitgeist. Obviously, back in the 90s and the late 90s, everybody, if you were like a celebrity of a certain status, everybody knows you. These days, that's not necessarily the case. You can have like 100 million followers on a platform and a good segment of the population won't know who you are. So these days, you don't get the benefit of the doubt necessarily. You got to show up, ingratiate yourself with the crowd, show them that you're going to work your ass off, and then they'll do some shit with you if it's going to be a successful integration. Travis Scott was given a really cool custom hardcore title by Triple H at one of his concerts. Hasn't cut a promo. Has actually designed a really cool merch line. Or his people have. But on TV, he's just sort of shown up. And what are we expected to think? Like, even with Rodman did like a really, it was funny because it was when Rodman was promoting Double Team with Van Damme.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Hogan showed up at like a screening or something and gave an NWO shirt. And instantly these two guys had chemistry because they're both kind of weird. And then Rodman shows up and it's like, well, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
And Rodman's got that kind of punk rock kind of danger thing going. And he was really into it. And he wasn't terrible in the ring either.
No, he wasn't.
But Travis Scott just sort of showed up. And it's like, you know, Triple H gave him the title, not even on TV. And then he's just sort of there. And wrestling fans, they can be gatekeepers. It's like, you're not really allowed in this world unless you've shown us that, like, you're not just here to whatever. It's not wrestling fantasy camp. You're going to come in and have a good faith effort to add to the story, to the universe, to the lore that's being told here. And they haven't, and I'm not blaming the dude, but like, they haven't really like, and then on top of that, he like like, this guy's going to be in a match and he can't even do like a basic, make it look like he's punching a guy without actually like almost breaking his orbital.
Eardrum, his busted eardrum.
Eardrum, right.
I mean, also as well, when Travis Scott first showed up on WTV, it was during a Jey Uso entrance.
Yeah.
And then some time goes by, and now he's aligned with The Rock.
Right, yeah.
And it's just like there's confusion about the nature of the story you're trying to tell as it relates to Travis Scott. And yeah, it doesn't help that he hasn't had an opportunity to talk about that on TV.
He hasn't cut a promo. Even Rodman, the first time when Hogan gave him the shirt, Rodman looks into the camera and he does a little spiel and they both say, "Too sweet." It's actually pretty charming.
Yeah.
even though it is Fuck Hulk Hogan Day.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like he hasn't addressed the WWE crowd, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know. Like if he gets in the ring and he does something really impressive, then maybe you'll start turning people around because it's like, oh, well, he's actually bizarrely good in the ring, but there's no indication that he's anything other than just a dude, you know, in terms of where he fits in the wrestling landscape.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be a Bad Bunny or if he's going to be, I don't know, whatever the other analogy would be. But he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to be a Bad Bunny. A lot of work.
Well, I think also WWE Creative has a lot of work to do.
Well, when I say him, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. To tell that story. Because they haven't done it, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Travis Scott just showed up with The Rock at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Yeah.
Still haven't explained it. So they need to get to telling that story, especially if he's being more involved in terms of having matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
They need to start getting into this creative stuff because they haven't at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, before we continue on, we have some sponsors for the show this week, so let's go ahead and talk about that.
Let's do it. Well, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So, Steve, we've talked about this all week, and I'm happy you clued me in to this because for a while I was really confused. I haven't taken English class since high school, like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So for a while I was confused. Is it data or data? But it's both, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I did some more digging, and I think there is a conclusive answer, but I wasn't able to figure out what it is, so I don't know. Yeah. Used to be both. Now I don't know.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, regardless of how you say it, I thought it was normal to pay a fortune for my monthly data or data plan. That is until I found out that Mint Mobile's premium wireless plans start at just $15 a month.
That's correct. And with Mint Mobile, you can say goodbye to those outrageous monthly bills and unexpected overages. You see, all Mint Mobile plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, all in the nation's largest 5G network. And you can bring your own phone and keep your current phone number and all your existing contacts.
So ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. No matter how you say it, data. Don't overpay for it. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/raw. That's mintmobile.com/raw.
Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5-gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options are available. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
And let's get a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. Steve, you've cut the cord, yes?
So happy I did. Yes.
Happiness. Yes. You're very happy about it.
I am super happy about it, man. Simply because I'm saving a bunch of money. That's money I can put into anything else. Most of my socks had holes in them. Now I can buy new socks.
New socks.
Yeah, it's great. And with but the thing is, when I was thinking about cutting the cord, I was like, my job requires me to watch NXT and SmackDown. The cool thing is with NordVPN, I can change my virtual location so I can watch NXT every Tuesday and SmackDown every Friday because they got it internationally speaking. NordVPN is also the fastest VPN in the world, so that means no buffering or lagging. It also stops my ISP from throttling my bandwidth.
And that's not all. NordVPN also keeps your private online data, like your passwords, your bank details, safe, and offers premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee a month. Their threat protection feature keeps you safe from viruses, malware, and phishing sites. And one NordVPN account can be used on up to 10 devices.
And to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/raw. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box.
And this episode of Going in Raw is sponsored by BetterHelp. So I've spoken quite a bit on the show about my experience going to therapy. And while therapy did help me learn the tools I needed to better cope with that anxiety I was dealing with in my mid-20s, I also found out that in-person therapy can get very, very expensive, with session fees adding up quickly. But with BetterHelp, therapy can feel more accessible and not like a luxury.
BetterHelp offers quality care at a price that makes sense. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat weekly fee for sessions, saving you big on cost and time. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach.
Plus, BetterHelp is completely online, making therapy far more convenient. 20 years ago, when I was going to therapy, I had to get in my car and drive and deal with LA traffic to get to my appointments. With BetterHelp, you can join a session with the click of a button, so you can fit therapy into your hectic schedule. And you can switch therapists at any time.
Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/raw today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw.
All right, now is the time in the show, Larson, where we look at what the friendos, this is my favorite time of the week. We get to see what the friendos want us to talk about, because we might not always get or consider some of the news that's out there all that important. So we'll leave it up to the friendos. If there anything you guys want us to talk about, we'll talk about it. So first up, John Bear Gaming says Bayley's interview with Chris Van Vliet.
So I heard a couple things about it. Specifically, there was a conversation about how long she has left on her contract, and I guess about 1.5 years.
I saw the thing about how she feels like she doesn't stick up for herself quite enough, like in terms of like being as assertive as other people. Mm-hmm. And it was filmed before Mania, and she says by the time this thing comes out, there's going to be a lot more of that, sort of, foreshadowing her not being at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer. Like, still, they should have found something for her.
I know.
They really should have. I don't know how you're not trying to find something for her.
I know.
I mean, I guess the idea is the important to them, to Triple H, the important thing was if she's so injured she can't make it to WrestleMania, she's so injured she can't have a match at WrestleMania, she's so injured she can't show up at all for WrestleMania, and her getting laid out and Becky coming in and doing the Hogan thing, that wasn't an option, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, maybe that would have been the same amount of, that would have warranted the same amount of criticism if she, because my thing was always, what if she comes out with Lyra, mm-hmm. they beat her up beforehand, mm-hmm. and she can't go, Becky comes in, so at least she's on the card. But then I still feel like that would have warranted a lot of criticism. And maybe even people saying, well, why was she there in the first place? Don't even put her on there.
Yeah.
So damned if you do, damned if you don't. But evidently you just got to hope that there's a larger story there.
Exactly.
A Ninja says, Karrion Kross's promo, if you haven't gone in depth about it, we actually did talk about it on the Raw After Mania show. Mm-hmm. I liked it. I mean, you and I have been big Kross fans for a long time.
Yep.
And it's his time. I hope that my main thing about the promo, I thought it was really, really good because all of his promos are really good.
Yeah, he's a good promo. Yeah.
The bottom line though was they're not putting me on television. And I thought it was really good, but I wonder how they're going to work this promo into whatever story he's got coming up. Because I feel like he wouldn't have done it unless there was some angle coming up for him that involves this. If it's simply him and they're like, hey, drop, whatever promo you want.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to take to task, Triple H basically for not putting me on television. I feel like he's more creative than that. Is my take.
Yeah, I understand that aspect of it, but he's also savvy enough to understand that this kind of promo is going to get picked up and shared online. So I mean that could be part of the thought process as well.
That could be. That could totally.
When every time there's a wrestler that people they appreciate their work, they feel like they're underutilized. When that particular wrestler talks about it, people are energized.
Yeah, that's true.
And start sharing it. So that could have something to do
with
it.
And that happened here because a lot of people were sharing this one.
Yep.
No, it was awesome, but the dude's always an awesome promo.
Yeah.
He's great. So I just hope that it is indicative of something that's going to that means he's going to get more television time.
Yeah, I hope so.
If not, it's all for naught.
Yeah, exactly. Landon Smith here says, your thoughts about the WWE Unreal documentary. I mean, the trailer is, what, maybe a minute long? But if the idea is we get to see even a glimpse of what the creative process is like, that's interesting.
I mean, yeah, there's like one shot where people are like, oh, no, Cody's fine. He's just selling out there. Yeah, I'm down for that. I mean, Triple H seems to be really interested in doing that. I mean, he said in the Rosenberg interview that, you know, he doesn't like people spoiling stuff, but after the fact, if you tell him how it's done, he's got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think that's great. You know, if the idea is, hey, let's try to, you know, man, you got to wonder, what's the biggest stigma that's always affected pro wrestling as long as we've been alive?
Oh, that it's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could they have avoided that from the get-go? And would it have been a good business move to have avoided that from the get-go?
To present like any other form of scripted entertainment. Yeah. Yeah.
That being said, but the thing is, like, you're trying to draw people to the arena. You know, man, you look at some of those crowds in the South back in the day, you can't tell me some of the people didn't think it was real. They presented a very real feeling product.
They did.
I understand why it would be a very scary proposition to let people, you know what's going on. Even though back in the 30s, there were literal books being written about the process and how it's fake.
Yeah.
Fake. But yeah, you know, doing this now where it's like, hey, this is an art form. This is a form of entertainment. And this is how it's done. I think it's great.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's awesome. And any amount of that stuff. You and I are always big fans of the Breaking Ground documentary.
Yeah,
you know, that was awesome stuff. All right, man. A lot of people are asking about this one, of course. Hizzo Carl says the WrestleMania roast being leaked.
I listened to, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of it, and no. Pretty cringy.
I read a breakdown of it. I don't know if I could listen to it. It sounds very cringy.
Oh, it was a 9-minute file, and I think I got 2 minutes into it.
Yeah. I read like a whole breakdown of it, and I feel incredibly vindicated because when I talk shit about the guy that's hosting it, and I was like, I've never seen anything he's done that's been funny. Like, you know, he was on Raw, and I was like, these jokes are horrible. Like, these aren't, they don't even meet the baseline of like funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not even constructed in a clever manner. And I've seen a small handful of clips of him on social media, none of which I thought was funny. And I got in the WrestleJuice comments, I get a couple people were like, oh, you just don't like him because of his politics. And I'm like, I've seen plenty of clips of Theo Vaughn, who's a Trump guy. I think he's funny. Andrew Schulz, I've seen plenty of clips of his, like on Instagram, and I'm like, this guy's he's funny. Funny is funny. And if he goes a certain way in terms of his politics, then that it is what it is. But like, to me, funny transcends that. And it's asinine to suggest the only thing that keeps me from admitting that something is funny is, oh, he voted for a guy that I didn't vote for. Therefore, I don't find him funny. When in fact, it's like, no, if the jokes are funny, they're funny. I looked at the breakdown of this and I'm like, does this guy watch wrestling? Because all I saw was like really like the lowest of hanging fruit venturing into the oldest, most tired cultural stereotypes. And I'm like, bring something new to the equation. Like, do something. Like, do you remember Bruce Valanche?
Mm-hmm.
Guy used to write for like the Oscars and the Grammy. He wrote for all the award shows.
Yeah.
He was like a joke writer.
Yeah.
None of his shit was terribly funny, but it all had a baseline of like, oh, you know how a joke is constructed.
Yeah.
You know what a setup and punchline is. Mm-hmm. This doesn't have, and I see, it's funny because like I've seen people on social media say, this isn't even funny. And then like, whenever there's a defender or an apologist or whatever, they're always like, oh no, you got to check this out. And I think it's like the roast of Brady. You got to check this out. And that's funny. And it's like, well, why couldn't he have been funny here? Why couldn't he have been funny on Raw? Like, dude, are you funny or not?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have no desire to watch any more of the guy because everything I've seen of him, I haven't found funny.
Yeah.
Funny is funny. It's like either you know how to construct a joke and you know how to. Being mean for the sake of mean isn't necessarily funny. You can be clever and roast somebody. If you look, I've seen this a million times. This even predates us, but I know you and I have both seen the commercials of them.
Oh, the Dean Martin roast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a bunch of homies sitting around talking shit about each other in an incredibly clever way.
Yeah.
That also betrays a fondness for the individual. That's what a roast is supposed to be, not just, hey, this guy had some controversy. Let me talk about this. This person had plastic surgery. Let's make some unclever jokes about that.
Exactly.
Like, it's just, funny is funny, dude. And if you're not that, then don't tell me to go look at this instead. Okay, I don't want to look at that.
No.
I probably won't. Guess what? I probably won't find that funny either. If you do, great. Good for you. Congratulations. I heard Sami Zayn was good. I heard Braun Strowman was good.
Yeah, the one clip I heard was just Paul Heyman. And it was vulgar, and the audio quality was bad. And in that
I heard
2
Heyman
minutes,
was just vulgar for the sake of being
he was
vulgar.
super vulgar, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be kind of surprised if they did another one. Apparently Nia Jax is getting some flack because I read some of her stuff and I'm like, are there any jokes here? Like you just sound like you're taking out your frustrations on people.
I know.
Like, is that the point here? I don't know. Wrestling, dude, wrestling is one of those weird things where there is such a, as an industry, it could be a very defensive one because of the fake label.
Oh yeah.
And you've seen this play out, like, Richard Belzer, when Hulk Hogan choked him out.
Yeah.
John Stossel.
When David
More
Schultz
recent, Austin. Yeah, Austin Theory.
Yeah.
What was it? Vader in Kuwait, I think it was.
Yep.
Where they'll be taking a task. Oh, what you do is fake. It's not real. Oh, it's not, and then like the wrestler gets upset and, will strike somebody or walk away or get mad or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's already an industry that kind of has its own insecurities. And the second this was announced, I was like, this isn't what you think it is. Like the industry is not ready for something like this, No. So I don't know. But then I looked at the jokes. I'm like, God, none of these are even all that clever. Like they're not really pro wrestling jokes. There's so many jokes that could be made that weren't.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know.
It seemed like so much it was just being mean-spirited for the sake of.
Yeah.
And that's just not funny.
To me, that's not what a roast should be. Like traditionally, that's not what it ever was. It's just eventually.
It's people who are friends or friendly with some good-natured shit talk that, you watch that and you're like, these people obviously know each other and there's a bond there and they're celebrating that bond by teasing each other essentially.
Yeah.
And that's not what this seemingly was.
Yeah. But you could see that coming a mile away. Like this was never going to be good. This was never going to have value, And the fact that they didn't broadcast, that's the thing about it, is that the fact that they never planned on broadcasting it,
kind of tells you they knew it wasn't going to be good.
Yeah. Anyways, Broski says TNA revealing their new international championship. Have you seen this thing? Have you seen this thing? No. It's got a blue strap.
Oh, hey, I like that. Oh, it's powder blue.
Yeah, it's very nice. It is very nice looking.
That does look nice.
I like it. When I saw it, I was like, oh, this works. Here we go. Yeah, it's a beautiful title.
Steve Macklin is the first champion.
Oh, good for Macklin. Good for him. Let's see.
Yeah, that's a good looking title.
David Matuszek says the death of Steve McMichael. So this was just yesterday, I think.
Yeah, that's sad. That's really
very sad.
It's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, just a really lovely person.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lovely person.
Mm-hmm.
And fought hard for, I think, years.
Yeah.
So really sad to see. Incredibly sad. Yeah, my heart goes out to his family.
Likewise.
That's rough.
Likewise.
Let's see here. We already talked about that. Wait, is this true? AJ Otani says Alberto has been released from AAA?
That's news to me.
Has that actually happened? Yeah, I don't see that anywhere here.
Yeah, I don't see anything regarding that either.
All right. Y'all need to like post up actual stuff
Yeah.
instead of just saying something.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, JMC. I saw the headline of this. I didn't actually see it, though. I think it was in a little fan video. Randy Orton criticizing the price of WrestleMania tickets.
Yeah. So I have a Yahoo Sports story about it. There was somebody who was saying their lower bowl tickets at Mania cost about $5,000, while a floor seat cost $30,000 between the two nights. And so apparently Randy Orton heard about that and said, "It's embarrassing, so much fucking money for a seat."
See, that's a roast of WrestleMania right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's
an obscene amount of money. Obscene amount of money to pay to watch a wrestling show.
It is
$10,000, $15,000 for one night.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I mean, how much is this as a comparable Super Bowl ticket? It's probably more expensive, right?
It probably is more expensive. Well, that's outrageous as well.
Yeah, I know, but like I didn't see any empty seats there. And look, I'm not saying this is great or anything.
I know the reason they can charge that much is because people are willing to pay that much for them.
And it's just that's where we're at right now. They're concerned about how much they can get as opposed to
really Bob Roode's promo when he came to NXT was really prescient, wasn't? Talk about how he doesn't want your average fans sitting in the front row. He wanted the tech CEOs.
But the problem with that, of course, is that somehow we have a bunch of average fans spending $15,000 for the front row. Because none of them look like tech CEOs, man. Oh, man. That picture of Stone Cold walking away from after the barricade bit was hilarious.
Yeah.
We'll bring up this one really quick. Mosh Pat says, AEW diehard internet fans crashing out, calling everybody who watches WWE MAGA. This happened to me, Larson.
It did?
Yes.
When?
On Blue Sky. Man, you know what, dude? So WWE, they got some weird fans. WWE has some weird fans. AEW fans could do the funniest thing and just kind of be normal. Mm-hmm. But on Blue Sky, dude, I don't know why, but there's some weirdos there. Super anti-WWE. If you like WWE, guess what? You're MAGA. So like, no, I posted up, like, remember how I sent you on text the mute?
Yeah.
Right. So like I posted a picture on Blue Sky, that same picture of like the mute sign on my television. And I said, whenever Logan Paul shows up on my television, right? Just a stupid joke, right? I get 30 likes on a good post.
Yeah. Just
to engage with the world. And so somebody responded with like, and yet you're okay with all this. And it's like shots of Linda McMahon and Triple H and her. And it's like, okay, I get it. They got close ties to Trump. And I personally think that WWE is trying to appeal. So like Nick Khan recently said that there's a 13% overlap between WWE and UFC fans.
Yeah.
And it seems like WWE is trying to inch their way towards obtaining a part of that aspect of the fan base, because that aspect of the fan base is very MAGA coded. Like Trump always shows up at the UFC stuff.
He does, yeah.
And so I think that's what they're going after. I mean, they obviously have close ties to the administration. So like, but they also see maybe what's happening is like a cultural shift. So they're trying to get a piece of that money. And so I was just like, yeah, you got me. I think I just want to like, Yeah, you got me. And then the guy said, yeah, I assume you're just like a proud MAGA guy. And I'm like, you don't really know much about me, do you?
Nope.
like our views are pretty easy to ascertain from our programming.
Yes.
You know. But so I don't know, I quote tweeted and then he blocked me. So yeah. Some weird people out there.
Yeah, that's why I don't really engage in social media, really.
You're a smart guy. All right, man. We can talk about AEW and NXT. Of course, AEW are on the road to evidently spring break now. Or spring breaking. Sorry, it's called spring breaking.
Spring breaking? It's not beach break?
Beach break. Is it beach break?
Because they just had spring breakthrough.
Oh, okay. It's probably beach break then. Yeah, I'm
beach
sorry.
break.
One of them beach themed things.
Here, I'll double check on that. But
in any event, Samoa Joe is going to get his title shot on an episode of Dynamite.
Because they're doing Anarchy in the Arena with Death Riders and Young Bucks against Babyface team.
Because that's what they always do with the Double or Nothings.
Yeah,
they do the Anarchy in the Arena. So that makes a lot of sense. So that was confirmed. Our next championship match.
Beach break, May 14th.
Beach break. Okay, it is okay. Beach break. Okay, something break. Anyways, so yeah, we're gonna have Samoa Joe versus Mox at Beach Break. On Dynamite as opposed to pay-per-view, which makes some amount of sense. I mean, Joe is at this point not necessarily in the hierarchy of AEW potential contenders, not necessarily a Swerve or an Ospreay. He's more of a Dynamite guy in terms of a world title shot. He's a former world champion.
He is a former champion. He has main evented pay-per-views in the past. But
I love Joe. If it was up to me, he'd be higher up the hierarchy, but yeah. He's a trios champion. So
yeah, I mean, as it relates to his booking, yeah, I understand your point. It is an interesting episode of Dynamite last night because over the last few weeks, I feel like when they do tournaments, AEW, when they do tournaments, it really seems to help them focus on how they want to present Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, the Owen tournament's still happening, but there's only one tournament match last night, and that was the semifinal match between Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander, which was really good. There was a lot of talkie segments last night. And then I think all the other matches, except for Hayter versus Statlander, were just kind of put together matches.
So they were, they were like, these people are feuding, so let's put them in a match without really stakes, just so they can continue to feud, as opposed to let's advance some story in these particular feuds. For example, Will Ospreay and Brody King teamed up against Takeshita and Josh Alexander.
A good match. It was really good.
No, the wrestling's always good. And that was a match. Number one, was a really good match. And that was one where it's like, okay, well, I don't exactly know who's. Well, yeah, no, we did kind of know. Brody's going to be the guy taking the pin there, obviously. And it was good to see, hey, Josh Alexander is going to be a bad guy in the Callis family now, so that's cool. I was trying to remember, again, some of this might be just my memory. Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe. What was the genesis of that one?
Oh, it was, remember the $400,000 explosive tag match? They were on opposite sides.
Are we surprised Briscoe got the win here?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised about that one. Although it looks like we're going to get Ricochet's next win. Because after that, he was going to stab what's-his-face. And then, who is it?
Kevin Knight.
Kevin Knight. There you go. Kevin Knight came out.
Comes and makes the save.
Yeah.
And then Ricochet kind of returns the favor, costing Kevin Knight and Speedball Bailey their match against the Young Bucks. Another really good match.
Yeah, that was a good match. But at that one, it's like, oh, you know who's taking,
the Young Bucks
who's taking the pin there.
Yeah.
So like all those, with the exception of the Briscoe Ricochet one, which the outcome was surprising. It was like, yeah, you sort of know who's going to win all these matches. Again, the wrestling's good. I wonder if we're at the point where Collision's like better than Dynamite, because every week we get people saying, you guys need to be watching Collision. Well, I don't tell you, man. I like my Saturdays.
Yeah,
I only have time for one more.
Me too. But then apparently you get massive story beats like Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta reteaming. Roppongi Vice, members of the Callis family now. They showed up to help Don Callis. I'm so confused.
Yeah, that was a Collision thing. And the only reason I know that is because I was on socials and somebody said, oh, man, look, they're bad guys now. And they'd cut like a little promo there saying they took apart the conglomeration.
All right.
So, I mean, look, that's cool. That's fine. They tell stories on Collision. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, because for a while, I mean, the reason we kind of stopped, at least I stopped watching, because there were basically no stories on Collision.
Oh, yeah, it was just completely, it wasn't even like people feuding. Let's get them in matches together. It was just, hey, it's like a bucket with a bunch of names in it.
Yeah, we got 2 hours to fill. Let's put on a bunch of wrestling matches.
Let's see here. Griff Garrison versus Pac. All right, cool. Let's do that.
There we go.
So we can just dive into it. Master P showed up.
That was awesome.
No.
Hooty hoo, Steve.
Hooty hoo, Larson. No Limit Soldiers represent. Anyways, Joe was really excited because he shows up and he introduces the Ops. So the Ops come to the ring. Joe's in a good mood. He's old like us, so he knows Master P. Mm-hmm. He says, good to be in the building tonight because the Ops have come to celebrate. Got to give props to my big brother over here. Thanks for welcoming us to your city. They're in Nolans. And for everything you do for this city. And then Joe and P talk about the Big Blue Collective, which is Master P's initiative to help student athletes succeed. And Joe said, we said to ourselves, what's the best city to celebrate our championships? Right here in Nolans. That brings out the Death Riders.
What song was that?
I don't know. That's my own Death Rider. I just Death Rebel Death Riders.
It's like an amalgam of the Death Riders theme plus Minutemen's Corona.
I'm John Moxley. Theme. Welcome to Death Riders. Brown
Baron.
No, it started to morph into the Righteous.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so the Death Riders show up. Marina comes out, and then Mox, Yuta, and Claudio attack the Ops from behind. Death Riders surround Master P, but no Limit Soldiers here. Mox steps up to him, chokes him out. Shibata and Hobbs yank Yuta and Claudio off the apron. Master P gets on the mic, says, it's about to be a problem. You know what? Put him to sleep. And then the Young Bucks and Okada slide into the ring. Matt hits Joe with a chair. Marina slides into the ring and escorts Mox out. Young Bucks was like, hey, Mox, come back. It seemed like they wanted to curry favor there.
Yeah.
Swerve's music hits. He walks in through the crowd. Joe chases the Elite from the ring. Kenny's music hits. He walks out with a chair. It's Chill Kenny once again.
Yeah.
The Elite escape through the crowd. So all the faces get in the ring. Joe gets on the mic because the crowd is chanting, whose house is this? Swerve's house. He says, but with respect to whose house this is, I will say this. Mox, you wanted me. You got me. I'm going to beat your ass and choke you out and take back my AEW title. And darts a look over at Swerve when he says that.
Yeah.
So that's how that opening segment ended.
Later on, we have the Young Bucks take on Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. This match was a lot of fun. The finish especially was crazy. The pace, the moves.
Yeah.
It was pretty nuts. So the finish sees the Young Bucks looking for an EVP trigger on Kevin Knight. He escapes, hits them with a double DDT. He's looking for a springboard, but then Ricochet runs down and grabs him by the foot. And then the Young Bucks hit him with an EVP trigger to get the win. And then later on, commentary announces that we will get Joe versus Mox at Beach Break, May 14th.
Correct.
So in 3 weeks' time.
Spring break, beach break. We had, like you said, one of the Owen Hart tournament semis with Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander. It was the main event. Hell of a match as
really
well.
good.
Kind of figured we'd know, or the winner of this one was kind of not necessarily in doubt, though, because Statlander had 2 killer matches against Mercedes.
Both of them losses, though, and be
both of them are losses. Yeah.
Pressed to believe that they're going to say essentially, sorry, Statlander, and have her lose to Mercedes a third time.
Yeah, so Jamie Hayter got the win here with a Haterade, but a really good match. Mercedes shows up and stands next to the Owen Cup, talks some shit. They just sort of talk shit from far away, back and forth. So
hey,
that
one thing about really Dynamite last night, it actually ended right at 7 o'clock.
It did, yeah, no overage. Yeah,
no overrun this time.
Yeah. Tony Storm issued an Eliminator challenge, and it was accepted by the returning queen, Aminata. So Renee was interviewing Tony Storm backstage, asked about her watching the Owen Cup matches. She said, why shouldn't I? These are the preeminent individuals in our entire industry. So, ladies, good luck. Pound your flesh, rip your tits, but don't get any blood on my pearls. He says, remember, you're watching the feature presentation. And then Renee mentions that Tony's going to be at the TCM, the Turner Classic Movies Film Fest, which sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And Tony says, yeah, it's some new little sci-fi film. Renee says, well, it's Empire Strikes Back. And she says, there's not an empire big enough to strike this back. She says, but remember, I'm a lover and a fighter. I have an idea. Then she stands on like a road case and says, attention, slop tarts. This Saturday, I'm going to have a championship eliminator. So if there's any bitch who has the itch, and then Queen Aminata steps up, accepts the challenge. And she says, yeah, we're going to have a great match. And she says, no, we're going to have cinema. And then Luther carts her away. It was pretty good.
It is good. So FTR, they have themselves an agent now. Stokely Hathaway, who we haven't seen in a while.
No, we haven't seen Stokely in a long time. And he couldn't, man, there was a couple-week period when I was Dax's biggest fan. But another one of these long-ass...
Oh, you didn't like his trolling of Rock and Roll Express last night?
Well, okay, so the funny thing is, you and I the other day were literally, so when we were talking about the Dangerous Alliance, we were like, wait, Midnight Express, I
said Midnight
Rock and Roll Express.
Which tag team Bobby Eaton was in, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, which one is which? The Rockers, the Midnight Express, the Midnight... No, I know
Midnight Rockers were just the Rockers. That's Jannetty and Shawn Michaels.
Wait, the Midnight Rockers were the Rockers?
Yeah, because in AWA they were the Midnight Rockers.
Oh, okay. And
Midnight Express was the tag team that Jim Cornette managed and had a bunch of members, but including Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, and Stan Lane.
And then who's...
Rock and Roll Express has always been the Rock and Roll Express.
These guys.
That's Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson.
Yeah, Bobby Eaton, Ricky Morton. Their names, in my mind, they're too similar.
Which names?
Morton Eaton.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm just explaining my mind, man. I'm not expecting you to understand.
I've given up on that endeavor years ago.
Probably a good idea on your part, too. A good long-term investment.
Yeah.
So anyway, Shivani introduces the FTR, but Stoke interrupts. He says, I got this. He introduces FTR. They make their entrances to the ring with Stokely. He says, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. FTR were suspended and fined for accidentally hitting somebody and touching Shivani. That's interesting to me because Hangman has committed arson. Ricochet shanks people with scissors. He mentions, what did Swerve do? It was like a home invasion or whatever he said. He says, Mox has committed acts of terrorism, extortion, yet he walks around AEW unpunished. That's unjust. If this, he got the suspension expunged and the fine is reimbursed. He says, moving forward, if you want to talk to FTR, you got to talk to me. As of today, I'm the new agent for FTR. So he tells Shivani to do his job. Cash thanks Stokely, says what happened with Garcia wasn't an easy decision, but Danny made his own decision. It was 2.0 came at us, and 2.0 wasn't ready for a fight, et cetera, et cetera. So Dax says... There's a couple legends in the house.
Sorry. How do you say it?
Bald, FTR bald.
But how did you say it? Thank you.
There's a couple legends in the house in the Rock and Roll Express. He invites them to the ring. They oblige.
Sounds like the bear from Muppets from Space.
It's my bald FTR impression. I'm going to read your notes in his voice.
Sure.
All right. Now, Dax says the Rock and Roll Express and some of the greatest matches of all time. Asks, what's the greatest match ever? And then Dax takes the mic from them, says their match against Midnight Express, no shade. Midnight Express is better. 40 years of the Rock and Roll Express, and they're still going strong. If I was judging by looks ago alone, I'd guess they were over 100, which means you were running hard in the 80s.
Yeah, and then Ricky Morton takes the mic and tells Dax, you're not going to embarrass us tonight. And then Stokely says, here's FTR's new shirt you can get right now at AEW shop. He says, this one's for you, Ricky. And so he throws it at Ricky Morton's face, and then FTR attacks Rock and Roll Express, and they hit Ricky Morton with the double-team pile driver. And Paragon...
Oh, God. Honestly, dude, this is the saddest thing in the world. They took my precious Undisputed Era, and then they turned him into... Weren't they the Undisputed Elite?
Yeah.
At a certain point.
Yeah, when they joined forces with the Young Bucks, yeah.
Then they were the Undisputed Kingdom.
Correct, when they joined forces with the Kingdom.
And now they're the Paragon Talent Agency.
bad. It's really bad. The logo's bad. The shirt's awful.
Any other name, I'll be honest with you, even if they were like, hey, yeah, our new faction name is Sack of Shit, that would have been better than Paragon. I'm sorry, I love these guys so much, and they should do. Remember back in the day when they did those fun, like, little short film things where like Roderick Strong was in, like, they were trying to de-traumatize him from being kidnapped by Dexter Loomis, and so they had him in the trunk, and he got freaked out and he ran away.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
It was good stuff.
Yeah.
And now they're called Paragon.
Now they're just kind of generic baby faces in a faction with a bad name.
Oh my God. Paragon, dude. I'm sorry, you know, man, in the history of like name changes that we were like, what are they doing? This one takes the cake.
Pretty high up there, huh?
This is way high up there. This makes WCW 2000 look like D-Generation X, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That bad. Paragon?
It's not good. It's not good. MJF, of course, still trying to get into Hurt Syndicate. So Hurt Syndicate comes to the ring.
Jesus Christ almighty. This was so long.
Don't worry. I'm going to paraphrase this. So they're talking about, defending the tag titles, beating everybody, and says after we beat who we're defending the titles against, you don't see him again. And he says, now Bob Lashley wants to say something. So he hands him the mic, but then you hear a car revving off camera. You cut to the Tron, and there's a car pulling in the parking lot. MJF is driving it, sports car. I think it was a Pontiac or something like that.
Very fancy car.
Like a Pontiac Firebird. I just saw the logo on the hood. I assume that's what it was, but I could be wrong. So he walks towards the ring, and he says, we all know you guys had a good time last week, and if you want to have a good time for the rest of your lives, all I need is three thumbs up. So MVP tries another round of voting. He's a thumbs up. Shelton gives a thumbs up, and he says, I'm just doing this for MVP. And then MJF's like, we all love MVP. We also love our good friend Bob. So Lashley's about to vote, and MJF says, I know you have your reservations. If I join the Hurt Syndicate, we'll get all the money, all the power, all the gold. He says, I bring to the table some things that you just don't. I know this place better than anybody. I know how to cut corners better than anybody. I know how to win by any means necessary better than anybody. You let me in, we're going to run pro wrestling. And he says, I think we kind of got off on the wrong foot. So I'm willing to say, he struggled to say it, but he did. I'm sorry. So MVP kind of lobbies with Lashley to give him a thumbs up. And again, looks like Lashley's ready to vote. And MJF goes, no, wait a second. You see that car? If you give me a thumbs up, that car is yours. And then Lashley's like, do you have the keys? Let's go take a look. And MJF goes, well, the valet has the keys. So they all go backstage. MJF hands Lashley the keys. Lashley gets in, starts the car, and starts to kind of idle away. And MJF is like, well, give me the thumbs up. Lashley gives him the thumbs down and speeds off in the car. And MJF's about to lose it, and MVP tells him, remember, give the people what they want.
If MJF had just shut up and let Bobby Lashley vote, he might have gotten the thumbs up because he made his case, and then he cheapened it by offering his fancy car, which Lashley, he can afford the fancy car. He doesn't need, that's not something he needs.
Yep.
He made a better pitch when he said we can have everything.
Yep.
And then he has to, resort to offering him a fancy car.
Yep.
So he'll get there.
Oh, that definitely was not a Pontiac Firebird. I don't know what that was. Was it a Corvette? I don't know what it was.
Fancy car.
Sports
So
car.
later on, continuing on with MJF stuff, Renee interviewed Hangman Adam Page. Of course, he has a match next week in the Owen against Kyle Fletcher. He says, the moment I see Fletcher, I'm going to put his ass in the ground. Looks like somebody wants to get in here, so get your ass in here, because he looks off camera, and it's MJF. He says, hey, how you been? I just wanted to compliment you on your new haircut. What did he say about it? He said, shit.
It was something about you met your wife at your family reunion.
Yeah. So Paige says, Max, you haven't changed anything about yourself since you were 12, have you? He says, look, I'm in the middle of an interview, so unless you have something of substance to add, I'd get in your car. Oh, that's right. You don't have a car anymore. MJF says, "Oh, it's Joke Man Adam Page. Here's a joke. Guy enters the Owen tournament only to watch MJF stroll in through the back door with the Hurt Syndicate and become a two-time champ." He says, like you know anything about the back door. Your whole plan is to join Hurt Syndicate. I don't get it. But after I beat your ass at Revolution, you know you can't win matches and you can't hang with me and the Owen. MJF says, "Of course you don't understand. You're an idiot. You want to act all high and mighty because you beat me. We're 1-1. And if we face off again, I'll be sending Seabiscuit straight back to the glue factory. You think you're a badass because you're in the Owen Cup. You're a great pro wrestler, but if you do manage to get to the finals, you're going to do what you do best. Choke." And then MJF leaves and Page says, "I got something for you to choke on." And Renee's like, whoa. Bring it down a notch.
Yeah. As mentioned, we got Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe. Really good match. Mark gets the win via roll-up after reversing a roll-up from Ricochet, where Ricochet had his feet on the ropes. After the match, Ricochet brings a chair in the ring and blasts Mark with it a couple times. He gets the scissors, and then Kevin Knight runs down to make the save, picks up the scissors, and Ricochet runs off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We also had Will Ospreay and Brody King team up against Takeshita and Alexander of the Callis family. Another really good match.
Mm-hmm.
This one saw the Callis family get the win. There's a bunch of stuff happened after the match. We get to it. So Takeshita hits Brody with a running knee, and then Josh Alexander follows with a nasty-looking C4. So then Takeshita and Alexander start beating up Brody and Ospreay. Archer hits Ospreay with a choke slam. Kyle Fletcher walks out. He comes to the ring and gets in Ospreay's face. Hangman's music hits. He starts to walk to the ring, but he gets laid out by Trent and Rocky. Roppongi Vice. So they put Hangman in the ring. He starts to go after Fletcher, but he's eventually just overwhelmed by the Callis family.
Yeah.
Guaranteeing that Hangman Adam Page is going to win next week.
Yep, certainly looks like it.
Yep, it's going to be him and Ospreay in the finals.
Page versus Ospreay in the finals. Yeah, that makes sense.
It'll be a hell of a match.
That'll be a hell of a match. That'll be really good, yeah.
And then finally on Dynamite, we got a Patriarchy interview. So Renee congratulates Nick Wayne on winning the Ring of Honor TV title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Christian says, "Congratulations should come to me." And he snatches the title off of Wayne's shoulder. And says, "I think you'd agree. Without your father, you wouldn't be Ring of Honor TV champion because I'm the one who forced you to spread your wings and become what I've always known you to be, the Prodigy. We're all proud of you, Nick. We all celebrated. In fact, your mother and I celebrated your victory extensively that night. You see what happens when you listen to me? Good things happen." And Nick responds, "You see what happens when you stick to the plan? You actually win titles." Mm-hmm. So Nick tries to get the title off of Christian's shoulder, and Christian stops him and then puts it on Nick's shoulder and says, "I love my family."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that was Dynamite.
We also had NXT after Stand and Deliver. I thought that on paper this was pretty good. But there was something about the venue and the way they filmed it.
It was because the hard cam was facing, so there was, I don't know, a handful of rows of seats ringside, and then seemingly a void. And all you saw in the void was the illuminated exit sign.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And off to the right of hard cam, there was more people. And I'm like, why didn't you position hard cam so you're getting the crowd as opposed to just a bunch of empty space in the background?
When you look at a long shot of the venue, there's plenty of people there. I don't know. I'm sure WrestleTix has what the attendance was.
But they were all to the right of hard cam.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get it. Maybe it's, I don't know. It just looked cheap. The actual filming of it. Remember when NXT used to go on the road back in the black and gold era? And for some reason, it just looked like the cameras were kind of crappier. And maybe the venue wasn't proper for television or something like that. I don't know what the deal is. I'm not a production guy.
Yeah.
But it just looked desaturated and kind of crappy.
Yeah.
Vic Joseph was all blown out. His face was all blown out. And I was sitting there and usually I'm down with any Ricky Saints promo, but him and Lexus King, they were just stumbling all over their lines.
Yeah.
And Joe Hendry seemed kind of nervous when he was out there.
Yeah.
It was just I kind of feel like the venue itself was just not conducive to the wrestlers being comfortable.
You know, it's
And you
also
need a certain level of that.
it's also a long weekend, and on top of
It's true.
their matches,
Yeah.
on top of the travel, I'm sure a lot of them had other obligations, whether it be media obligations, appearances. You know, and I'm sure it's just a really long weekend for everybody involved.
I think you're right. And it's like, well, also they're in Vegas.
Yeah.
So, but like, when Noam Dar returned.
Yeah, that was awesome.
To take the Heritage Cup. No pop. But
I
then
know.
once his music was done and they started wrestling, they started chanting "Welcome back."
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was like, did the venue just not lend anything to the noise aspect, to like the, a pop or what? Because I was like, dude, did they comp these tickets to tourists or something? But then they were all chanting "Welcome back." I was like, okay, well, everybody knows who he is and that he's been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing.
It was. It was.
But yeah, so I guess the biggest thing was Joe Hendry interrupting a Trick Obafemi promo. Seems like we're never getting an Obafemi Trick Williams match. Like,
Yeah, they seem to be avoiding that one-on-one match for some reason.
They seem to be, yeah. So Joe Hendry shows up, talks some shit, plugs Rebellion this coming weekend, and he's got some business with Obafemi. Before he really is allowed to get too deep into it, though, Trick Williams, basically, pushes him aside and says, "Get back," and et cetera, et cetera. Was it ever announced or made solid and I missed it? Or where is this match going? Is this going to be like a match?
I haven't noticed what the card for TNA Rebellion is. That's the next
I think
one.
Ethan Page is in it.
That's what I thought, too.
I think it's Ethan Page. Was it Ethan Page, Joe Hendry, and like Dolph?
Kazarian.
Like that? Oh, Kazarian. That's right.
So Frankie's there to eat the pin.
Maybe. I don't know. He might be booked like Brock Lesnar in TNA. I don't know.
Oh, so Kazarian cashed in his Call Your Shot trophy for that match. So I wonder if it was initially Joe Hendry versus Kazarian, and then Ethan Page somehow made his way into
maybe.
it.
That could be.
know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
So yeah, I don't know if he was just there to promote Rebellion or if they're going to have a match, Hendry and Femi and Trick Williams as another triple threat.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of protecting needs to be going on there, though.
I mean, Obafemi, whenever he's in a triple threat match, is really good.
Yeah, the man. Yeah, he's been in 2 now, and they've been 2 for 2.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Still got to protect somebody, though. I mean, it seems like Trick would just be in the pin there, which I don't know how many more of those you want to do.
Although, based on what happens at WrestleMania, it's not like TNA as opposed to Joe Hendry eating the pin if the situation.
Man, you can't be doing that often, though.
I know.
You got to be careful with that one.
Yeah.
Main event was really good. It showed Roxanne Perez challenging Stephanie Vaquer for the women's title. So Roxanne had a backstage interview. Sarah asked her about getting in Stephanie's face and interfering in her match at Raw. Perez says, "The Raw after Mania was supposed to be my moment, so I ruined Stephanie's moment to get the moment I deserve. And if Stephanie's got a problem with it, she should do something about it." She says, "Vaquer may have walked into Vegas as champ, but I'm going to walk out a 3-time champion." So that leads us to the actual match. And it was a killer match, really, really good one.
Yeah.
Perez had an answer for a lot of what Stephanie brought, but in the end, she hit that great dragon screw, followed with the SBB for the win. Julia walked on the ramp and stared down at Stephanie while the camera caught Jordan Grace watching from the crowd, but Stephanie at no point looked up at her.
No. Nope.
I think she realized she was there. She was like, "Hey, I'm up here." It'd be great if she's eating some nachos or something. There's like a fan next to her. He's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Talked about the Trick Joe Hendry Femi promo segment. Trick just really wants a one-on-one opportunity, seemingly.
At this point, shouldn't he get it?
Yeah, he should.
Remember they had him fight Waller in Theory? Why did they do that?
I don't know.
So unnecessary.
Yeah.
Are they waiting to figure out? You think they're waiting to figure out how the draft is going to go? Because you would think in the draft, it might be a situation where Triple H is like, "Look, just stall because we might want one, we might want the other, we might want both. I don't know." So depending on how the draft goes, might depend on who the next NXT champion is.
Yeah. Yeah, could be.
So can we bring in Joe Hendry?
Yeah, I know. I know. Joe Hendry is the NXT champ because they decide both Trick and Oba are getting called up.
Yeah.
Liv and Raquel defended the tag titles against Gigi and Tatum. It was a fun match.
Yeah, no, that was fun. That was cool.
Finish sees Raquel hit Gigi with a Tejana bomb. Liv follows with Oblivion to get the win afterwards. Sarah's interviewing your new Women's North American champion, Sol Ruca. And Zarya. And Saul is saying how all 6 women in the ladder match were booming, but she's proud to be holding the North American title. Liv and Raquel step up and talk a bunch of crap. And Raquel says maybe Sol can give Zarya one of her titles, of course, because Sol Ruca is not only Women's North American champ, she's Speed champion. And Sol says, nothing's going to come between us, so it seems like we're getting a tag team match between Liv and Raquel and Sol Ruca and Zarya.
Yeah. Seems like that's going to be the case. Is Sol Ruca going to be a triple champ?
Probably not.
Speed? Man, that's one thing that I wish they would do. I get that Speed belongs to Elon, but let them wear the Speed title on television.
I know there's got to be some sort of contractual thing that keeps happening.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's true. So we showed earlier in the day Alexis King with Penn and Teller. And he's like, look, man, can you please just bring back my Heritage Cup? And then Penn, a.k.a. Abyss, is like, all right, listen. We'll bring back your Heritage Cup if you admit into the camera the magic is real and you agree to defend the cup tonight. After a lot of hemming and hawing, finally, Alexis King agreed. Magic is real.
Magic is real.
Illusions are real. And he was like, well, who am I going to fight? And Penn just looks into the camera and says, that's a surprise.
But
Penn would have made a killer wrestling. He might have made a killer wrestler. That dude is tall.
Yeah.
And his promos are 10 out of 10.
Yeah, he's a good talker, so he made a good manager for sure. Mm-hmm. Speaking of
how
promos,
much do you think those guys are worth, dude?
A lot.
Tons, right?
Yeah.
You think as an actor worth $100 million?
It's entirely possible. They've been doing Vegas for years.
Their brand name
TV shows. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like synonymous with magic,
Yeah. So Ricky Saints comes to the ring for the promo. He says he kicked off Mania weekend with a bang when he beat Ethan Page. He said he made good on his promise. And he says, I'm the man around here. So he's interrupted by Lexis King. And Lexis says, Ricky, you had a historic win, but I spent all weekend here in Vegas looking for my Heritage Cup. And Ricky says, I have no idea what I have to do with that. And Lexis says, I'm defending my Heritage Cup tonight, and if you don't get out of the ring, I'm going to set my sights on the North American title. This all leads to a title-for-title bout being booked between Lexis and Ricky Saints. But now that Lexis put up the Heritage Cup and lost to Noam Dar, that changes it. That's the impression I got. Because Ricky says during this interview that it seemed like he's just defending the North American title against Lexis King next week.
So, yeah, I don't think the title shot comes with the cup.
No, it's not like Ricky's facing Noam Dar next week. Yes.
Right. And then later Lexis King attack Ricky Saints backstage. So I think that just sort of adds to that. Ricky Saints needs to be a bad guy, dude. He's so good as a bad guy.
He is.
And it's like he's got kind of that attitude, but it's like, the first, whatever month of him being in NXT, he was just walking around backstage being like, wow, it's crazy here.
Why everybody's so angry here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, come on, man. Bring some of that stank they used to have in AEW.
Exactly. So later in the show, Sarah interviews Ricky, and he says, I feel for Noam because I was once in that similar situation, out for close to a year and feeling like you're forgotten. So if anybody's going to be a Heritage Cup champ, I'm happy it's Noam. He says, but I have to defend my title, and I will. Lexis has everything to gain but nothing to lose, and then Ethan Page steps in. But before he could say anything to Ricky, Lexis runs in and lays him out and says, Ricky, you cost me my cup. Now I'm going to take your title.
We also had another Dark State match this time during a recap or following a recap of Charlie Dempsey and Tavion Heights, both performing at Bloodsport. We see Ren Sinclair asking Miles Bourne, like, hey, why aren't you there? And he was like, well, they didn't ask me to come. Dark State show up. They're like, you're not a real shooter like Tavion. and we think it'd be best if the No Quarter Catch crew went your separate ways before we break you guys up like we did the D'Angelo family. And Miles says, yeah, well, you know what? When my crew gets back, we'll see about that. Javon Evans steps in. He says, who's ready to fight? Dion says, Evans has, you got no backup here. Miles says, nah, listen, I got your back. And then they challenge him to a tag match, which the Dark State win by heading a double team powerbomb on Miles Bourne.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun match. Javon Evans is fantastic.
Dude, he's so much fun. That guy's going to be
good.
huge. He's going to be huge.
He is so good.
Yeah.
Fallon Henley had a match against Thea Hale. That was set up earlier when Hank and Tank and Saul and Zarya are talking about, well, Saul and Hank and Tank talking about winning their new titles. Thea Hale comes in, congratulates them all. Jada Parker steps in, says to Thea, I don't need your energy right now. I didn't miss you over these last 6 months. So Kalani Jordan steps in, says, I agree the locker room has changed since you were last here. Fatal Influence step in. People are just coming in and out of the shot.
Yeah.
Fallon says to JC, you need to put Thea in her place. And JC says, if you want something done, do it yourself.
Yeah.
And then walks off.
She says to, what's the other person of Fatal Influence? What's
Jasmine Nix.
She's like, Jasmine, let's go. And they do.
Yeah. They leave Fallon there.
They are falling apart, man. What do you think about Thea's energy, man? Are you with like these other women? Or you're like, yeah, it's too much. You're being too much right now.
I mean, that's just Thea Hale. That's her character.
Yeah, pick and choose when you're going to be around her. Because sometimes you just don't want that much.
No, I understand that.
You know? But then people just walk up to her. If you don't like her energy, just don't walk up to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Know what you're getting into.
At that point, like the problem isn't her energy, it's you walking up to her.
Thea Hale tapped out Fallon Henley in their match. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Has Luca Crucifino, has he been murdered?
You almost had it.
Luca
Crucifino.
Crucifinus.
Is this the new Lyra Valkyria thing?
Maybe. Might not be,
you meant this a bit.
Might not be, though. No, well, thing. I thought you meant actual impediment to speaking her name correctly. Physical, medical condition. Is Luca dead?
That's the implication. Because once he found out or realized why Stax might have brought him out to the middle of the desert, his response was, oh, fuck.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, unless Stax has like a gun on him, I think Luca's got a good chance at, beating this dude's ass. I think
it's a fight. I mean, it's going to be an even fight at the least.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You get him down. Maybe you find a rock.
Yeah.
Seen enough mob movies that took place in the Vegas or the Nevada desert.
Yeah.
What happened next?
So after Luca is of the idea that he's going to get killed out in the desert, later on, Tony walks up to Rizzo's hotel room and asks, are you okay? She says, yeah. But, she says, I can't believe what Stax did. How are you? And Tony says, physically, I'm good, but, Rizzo asks if Tony's heard from Luca. Tony says, no, he just said he had to go clear his head. He says, but we're going to have to go to the mattresses with this one. And Rizzo says, she tells us a couple stories about things Stax have done for her. And she says, after all that, I always thought I'd always be loyal to Stax. Maybe you two could have a sit down. And Tony says, I don't trust him. I can't sit down with him because he's declared war. And he says, I see you're packing up. You can't go home. It's not safe for you. He says, I got a couple guys downstairs. They take you to a safe house until this all blows over.
Yeah. And then Briggs and Inamura are getting a tag title shot. So Spears is talking with Ava backstage.
We don't know about what exactly, because he just says, I'm just looking out for my friends.
It's like middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just looking out for my friends. He leaves. Inamura steps in. He's like, hey, man, Ava, I got to go back to Noah. They're calling me back home. So my time is coming to an end. He's like, I want to thank you. You don't get enough respect around here. He's like, I just feel bad, though, because we came this close, and I wanted to get Briggs that tag team title. And then he's like, but you know what? Got to go home. And she's like, you know what? And so Briggs steps in, and he's like, well, what's going on here? And Ava's like, you know what? She feels bad for him. She's like, you guys get a title shot next week against Hank and Tank. So she leaves. And then Briggs is like, oh, what's that all about? And then Inamura's like, he's been kind of playing her. He had a big smile on his face, like, it's an old Japanese secret of mine. So, like, he was just, sob story.
Would you like to answer some questions?
I would love to answer some questions.
All right. Luis has a great one. We'll save that one towards the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is outstanding, but we'll save it.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Let's see. Barry here says, assuming Cena defeats Orton at Backlash, defeats Punk at Money in the Bank, and Cody gets his belt back at SummerSlam, would Cena have any dates left? And if so, what does creative do with them?
Okay, assuming what now? Cody gets the title back when?
SummerSlam.
Yeah, he
Cena
would
have dates left. Yeah, because those are 3 shows if you count the pay-per-views. Even if he does 2 appearances in advance of those shows, that's 6. That'd be 9 of the 27. He'd have 18 left.
So, I did a video over WrestleJuice after Elimination Chamber, I think it was.
Oh, you mapped out all his appearances.
I mapped out, and the appearances would literally be every premium live event plus every Raw or SmackDown after, plus in advance of the Big 4, 3 appearances. In advance of the Big 4 plus Money in the Bank, I think.
Gotcha.
So there'd be probably half the remaining premium live events. He would do multiple appearances in advance and the one after, and all the premium live events. And that would get you to I mapped like the exact number of dates that he had left. Yeah. And so, that video is up on WrestleJuice somewhere.
I wonder if one of the reasons they're doing Survivor Series in a stadium and they're not billing it as War Games
could be the final Cena. That could be.
Yeah.
That's possible. That's very possible. Yeah.
In which case he'd be missing, at the very least, his final. Let's say he's champion for a good portion of the year. He loses it there, if not a SummerSlam to Cody. Maybe he loses to Cody at Survivor Series, and then they have one last show, maybe in the Boston area, because that's where Cena's from initially, as his farewell show. I don't know.
So in December, there's still a Saturday night's main event.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't shock me if they actually did a full pay-per-view called like John Cena's last match or something like that.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We'll save that one for the end as well.
Jacob Underwood here says, I'm newer to following wrestling after taking 20 years off, started back in February of 2024. Why has Roman been made to look so weak over the last 12 months after 4 years of invincibility? Find it interesting how they are crafting his story. Well, he doesn't have a bloodline with him anymore. His story wasn't that he was invincible, is that he had the bloodline with him. There was only one stretch in his 4-year title reign where it was a pretty small one, where he was consistently winning matches by himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's maybe like 3 or 4 pay-per-views. I'm just throwing a number out there because it wasn't long.
Are you
he didn't win with a lot of bloodline
one of those?
What's that?
Are you including Finn Balor falling off of a turnbuckle?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there was much interference in that one.
Yeah. I like how, boy, we were really doing some mental gymnastics after that show. What if this is part of the story?
It wasn't. It was.
It was just a faulty turnbuckle.
It's just the turnbuckle broke that they booked it to give out under Finn's weight.
Yeah. Let's see here. So I've seen this on social media as well. Farfetch says, how upset would you be if at Backlash the bell rings for Orton versus Cena, and the first thing Cena does is punch the referee, referencing what Orton did 20 years ago to get out of their match.
Yeah.
Punching the referee to get himself DQ'd, keeps the title.
I like the reference. It would kind of go with what Cena's trying to do. I wouldn't have an issue with it. The rest of the card has to be really, really good, though.
I'd be
upset if the main event's basically non-existent.
I wonder if there is like a more clever way to go about a similar thing.
What if Cena hits the ref with an AA and puts him in the STFU, and the ref taps?
He shows Randy how to really do it.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm not just doing that. I'm gonna. Hey, that's good. That's really good. Darius the Great says, since Larson notoriously loves ad integrations in his wrestling, how would you integrate Predator Badlands into Survivor Series when it comes out in November? You'd have Predator wrestle a match.
Yeah, have Predator wrestle a match. Bring RoboCop back. Predator versus RoboCop. Here, I don't mind.
Are they owned by the same companies?
That's a good question. It's not that I have an issue with ads being in the wrestling show. It's just with WrestleMania, every match had a different ad associated with it. It was just a lot.
This is probably the one thing where you and I differ the most on. Because I love that every match has a sponsor. I don't even know why. It's hilarious to me because it's the amount of stupid it is. Like the War Raiders had to come out in those
like that kind of stuff.
Ridiculous
and Drew
outfits.
had to come out with the Doom-inspired stuff. And
clearly hated it.
Did not like it.
He clearly hated it.
Like that's the kind of stuff. I'm like, it's kind of too much.
For
like
a
if you want to have
watch-along.
if you want to have your banner ads on the LED boards ringside, have at it. The ads in the ring, don't bother me. Have at it. You know, you want to have the sponsor logo on the match card saying this, like the main event sponsored by Drumstick, and you got the person in the Drumstick costume. That's fine. It's just, you know, when you have the wrestlers like, hey, you have to wear this Clash of Clans gear. All right. It's just a little much. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just a little much.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, dude, when you and I started watching Triple Mania, I was like, this is how it should be done. And I don't know why. Like, I don't think any of that stuff, maybe the Cinnamon Toast Crunch one, I forget. But I don't think any of that stuff necessarily compromised the integrity of the matches themselves and the outcome.
Yeah.
And therefore, to me, it's just funny to talk about that stuff the way we consume it during watch-alongs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see if it gets to the point where they build to this big dramatic thing of CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, and those guys can't politic out of like Seth Rollins having to wear a drumstick costume. At that point, I'll probably be like, I don't know. I'd probably still find that entertaining because it's so absurdly stupid.
Yeah. It'd be pretty ridiculous at that point.
Yeah. But to me personally, it doesn't take away from anything.
No, it doesn't necessarily take away anything from my experience, except for maybe when people, you can tell they're like, hey, you have to wear this entrance gear. And you can tell they don't want to wear it.
When it's but it makes me laugh.
But otherwise,
watching like the human reaction, the human behavior.
Yeah. No, for me, I see that, I'm like, oh gosh, I feel bad. Like that's my reaction. Not haha, look at that.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the actual ad aspect of it, it's fine. Like I understand. That's what it is.
Injust says, seeing as both companies have multiple women's titles, but no more than 2 women's matches per show, how do you think they could improve beyond better stories? Do they need a separate show? No, don't give them a separate show. Or the need for their own creative team for the women. For all I know, they have that. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know that.
Just better allotment of time. I mean, better usage of time.
Better allotment of time and more emphasis on telling more involved stories. EDR says, should Cena's last match be Cody winning the title? And if not, who should Cena's final opponent be and where should it take place? Well, it should be at the special John Cena themed pay-per-view event in December. And assuming Cody wins the title before that, in your mind, who was the ideal last opponent for John Felix Anthony Cena?
If they're clever enough, if they could do some sort of situation where they use his redemption story in a loss to Drew McIntyre, en route to Drew McIntyre being the guy to beat Cody, then I think that'd be ideal. They could do a thing where, oh boy, Drew McIntyre cashes in after the Cody match. When Cody wins, Drew cashes in. John Cena goes through some sort of, revelation where he understands that he's been in the wrong, tries to redeem Cody at his last match, get the title back and vacate it or whatever. I don't know. And he loses to Drew McIntyre. I think it should be Drew. I think Drew needs to be the next big bad.
Yeah.
And beating John Cena fresh off of a face turn redemption story is the way to do it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Now, if you can go down the nostalgic route, not necessarily give somebody who's, they want to have a huge 2026, that rub, go to one of Cena's oldest rivals. You know, he's going to face Orton at Backlash.
Yeah.
He's probably going to face Punk at Money in the Bank or sometime
Right.
this summer. So there's only one name left, really.
Carlito.
You think you know me? You gotta work out a deal to bring Edge back for one last match.
Why work out a deal? You own the IP. Just put it on somebody else. Put it on
wow.
Lexus King.
Wow, Lexus King is Edge.
He's Edge now. Yeah. Yeah. Marlon says, should Noam Dar take the Heritage Cup to main roster?
Noam Dar, the first thing you should do is say Heritage Cup's fought under Heritage Cup rules. That's the first thing you should do.
Well, no, the first thing he should do is broadcast a new Supernova sessions, and that's where he says the Heritage Cup is now under Heritage Cup rules.
Yes.
And, of course, his guest there is Gallus.
Yes.
Gallus boys on talk. Oh, man. Let's see here.
Greg Morris here asked, does Mercedes finally lose it all into Tony Storm? I think so.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, what?
Does Mercedes finally lose at All In to Tony Storm?
Yes, I believe so.
I think so.
Because Tony's already had a loss to Mariah May. Mercedes needs a loss.
Sandman here says, which modern superstar would you like to see get an autobiographical film? Modern star.
So like an A24 biopic?
You know, how about this? What if they do a Tony Storm movie?
Oh.
That's both a movie about the character of Tony Storm plus in reality Tony Storm.
That'd be a really cool idea. I was going to say like a John Cena meta film.
Yeah. About John Felix Anthony Cena.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Kyle says, since you changed your logo to Helvetica font or whatever basic font, it's Arial Black. He says, would you change the Going in Raw logo to just that with a black background too? No. We've stripped away all branding. We are simply now Stephen Larson's Pro Wrestling Podcast.
It's the essence of what you need to know about our show.
We will be debuting this shirt very shortly, though. It's just going to say Stephen Larson.
That's going to be great. Might be the new bestseller. All right, let me get this question from Luis because I want to get this in. If you could create a grunge super band, you can only draft one person per group to play an instrument or be on vocals, what would the band look like? So you need a vocalist, at least one guitar player, a bassist, and a drummer.
Gee whiz. Hey, who was the lead guitar for Soundgarden?
Kim Thale?
Was Kim Thale? He wasn't the bass player?
No, that was Ben Shepherd.
Yeah, you're right. Kim Thale will be my guitar. I was listening to Bad Motor Finger yesterday, and holy shit, some of the riffs. Oh God, dude! But Jerry Cantrell's out there. Oh boy, that's a tough one. I'll go with Kim Thale on guitar. Well, you want to do this draft style?
We can.
All right, let's do it draft style.
All right.
Do we have a coin to see? Oh, I have a coin right here. See who goes first.
All right. You're going to call it in there?
Or do you want to call it or do you want me to call it?
I'll call it.
All right. Ready? When I say call it, you call it.
Yeah.
All right. Call it.
Heads.
It's tails.
I lose this every time.
Oh, Jesus. So, like, oh, man. There's enough singers to go around. You almost can't go wrong on the singers. So then it's just who do I want? Dude, I'll take Kim on guitar.
All right. I'm going to pick Chris Cornell to be my vocalist, and he plays guitars too, and he writes pretty much all of Soundgarden songs.
All right. So you got Chris. On vocals, do I get, given that they often did harmonies, can I get Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley together?
No, I think you have to get one. Yeah, it's just one. You get one person.
Man, you suck. Lane Staley.
You get Lane. Okay. I'm going to take Dave Grohl to be my drummer.
Oh, that's a good one. He's a 5-tool guy.
You can write songs too.
Yeah. I'll get on bass. Was Jeff Ahmet their bass player?
He was.
I'll take Jeff Ahmet.
That's who I was going to take next.
Yeah.
So I got somebody from Soundgarden. I got someone from Nirvana. All right, I got to think about. So we're talking about grunge musicians. We're simply sticking to. Like, I can't pick someone who's like grunge adjacent. Like, we're not just thinking.
Man, what do I care? Do whatever you want to do.
Bands from the early '90s.
Grunge adjacent. I don't pick who you. Oh, you're gonna get Kim Deal, aren't you?
Well, she didn't play. Well, she did the Pixies. Yeah,
she
I'll
did
do Kim
the Pixies.
Deal.
Yeah,
I'll do Kim Deal.
All right.
Also, great songwriter.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Fine. Well, that's cheating, I guess. Well, I guess now I just need a drummer, right? Like, aren't we just picking one for each position?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you already got Nirvana's drummer.
Yeah. You can get Matt Cameron. Matt Cameron's an awesome drummer.
Yeah, I was thinking probably just Matt Cameron.
Oh, but he's Pearl Jam's drummer now, so even though he was in Soundgarden, you can consider him Pearl Jam drummer.
I mean, yeah. Wait, it's supposed to be one from each band.
Yeah, you can't do. Like,
who
you
am I
can't do like
I don't
half a
know.
Soundgarden.
Screaming Trees is drummer then.
Oh, okay.
Did what's his face? Did who's our lead singer? That is amazing.
Oh, Mark Lanigan.
Mark Lanigan. Did he ever play drums? Can I get him, please?
Not that I'm aware of.
I bet Frank Black probably played drums on his solo stuff. Can I get him?
be.
All right, I get Frank Black.
Well, you just decided that's how it works, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure he's played drums before. Yeah, I got Frank Black. I win.
So for my guitar player, I'm gonna get Steve Turner from Mudhoney.
There you go. That's good. Wait, so you didn't pick I want Jerry Cantrell at some role then.
All right, you want Jerry Cantrell? You want a second guitar player? You want Jerry
Yeah.
All
Oh, my. I get Kim Thale and Jerry Cantrell? Oh, bro.
Who's going to play leads?
Oh, man. Oh, they can figure that out.
It's going to be like the Eagles with Don Felder and Joe Walsh.
Yeah, exactly. I got a couple other fun questions here.
All right.
I'm trying to find some people who might not have. Let's see. Yeah, these people have all. Oh God, KB says if Travis Scott is the current day Dennis Rodman, who's our current day Karl Malone? I don't know if I'd put that on anybody. Let's see here. And then there's a couple of fun questions here. For Ignacio, who's trying to help his children navigate the world of film criticism and filmmaking. What's the better? Ooh, this is hard. You only choose one, Larson.
All right.
And I don't even know if we could frame this as what's better. It's just what's your preference and why?
Sure.
2001 or A Clockwork Orange?
So I'll answer that question by telling a bit of a story. So I used to have a friend in LA who would come over and we'd watch movies.
Okay.
And we just each challenge each other to show the other a movie they haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And we try to get sometimes pretty obscure stuff. So one time I showed 2001.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so we were eating while we were watching the movie. And it gets to the end where the space tunnel scene happens.
Yeah.
So this friend of mine stopped eating, did not touch their food for the remainder of the movie because they were so enthralled by what was happening.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So that's how I'm going to answer that question.
So that's what you would pick. That's your preference.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if your friend threw up.
At the end. Well, maybe if we were watching Clockwork Orange, that would have been the result.
I would go with look, they're both just masterpieces.
Fantastic movies, yeah.
The thing about Clockwork Orange that always struck me was just how expertly he built that world.
Mm-hmm.
and I understand, the dialogue was something inherent to the book,
Yeah.
but to properly translate the dialogue even and its meaning in such a Shakespearean way so that it was understandable. And the general world building anyways. Mm-hmm. You want to know what's the backstory here? Mm-hmm. What is this? It is such an impressive feat. Not saying anything negative about 2001, but to me, it's such an impressive feat to have accomplished that. And I think it's a more difficult task than even what he did in 2001. And on top of that, 2001, you can derive some amount of comedy there. Clockwork Orange has some legitimately gut-bustingly funny scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm always a fan of that when you can merge the two. So, yeah. And on top of that, Clockwork Orange has an orgy scene. So, that, of course, wins as well. We'll end on this one. Gorilla Mon says, what's a classic album you love that you might not enjoy if it was released today, or one that you dislike that you might enjoy more if released today?
The way my musical tastes have evolved as I've gotten older, like if Pearl Jam's 10 had dropped today, I probably would think, it's all right. It's not listen to it obsessively for 6 months,
It's a weird thing, though, because, trying to remove albums out of their historical context. That's kind of like saying if the movie Alien dropped today, it'd be kind of tame, But then it's not to say that there aren't some albums that are timeless, like OK Computer. If that dropped today, I'd be like, holy shit, this is mind-blowing.
Still feel very contemporary, yeah.
So 10 was actually the first thing that came to mind as well.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say that as well.
It's not just... It's something about literally the sonics of the album, like the way the album sounds is very much of that period.
Sure, yeah.
I know since they've done a remix that kind of stripped away some of the production on the album, because like I said, Eddie Vedder was never a fan of that. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like very, I don't know how to say it other than it sounds very 90s.
Yeah.
The record itself.
Yeah.
So maybe if the production's a bit more stripped back, it would be different, but...
Conversely, if Bleach had dropped today, I'd be all about it. Nevermind, I don't know, but Bleach for sure, because it's so much more raw. I'd probably be really into today, even if it dropped today. Because that album is so just fucking visceral,
Yeah. So what's the second part of the question? A record that back then you weren't that huge on that you would appreciate more today?
Yeah.
I guess I'd probably say, because it did kind of happen as Sonic Youth's earlier stuff.
Yeah.
Everything kind of predating Sister.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed it when I was introduced to it, but I feel like I have a much better appreciation for it now than I did back then.
I have the movie equivalent to this. I can't think of an album version of this, but I have a movie equivalent to it. It's Big Lebowski. My first viewing of that, I was kind of lukewarm on it. I was like, oh, this is cool. But then I've seen that movie so many times since then. It's on my top, probably top movie. 10. Oh, it's fucking genius. It's amazing. Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for the show today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time. See you guys around.
Goodbye.